probably in your top 10 if you had it to begin with, and it will stay in your top 10, but it may shift over time. So it's really nice to take this evaluation tool, every couple of years or so. All right, everybody get out your incomplete outline, please, and a writing utensil. Let us know if you need anything. If you're missing something, raise your hand. We'll try to give you as many tools as we can today. We try to run our trainings just like we run SI sessions. So we try to lead by example. I will use 3 elements as much as I can remember throughout the training. So if there's a moment of silence, that's because I'm utilizing wait time. But if you don't know what that means, you're about to find out. Okay? We're going to talk first about what SI is. And I can't do the PowerPoint with this, can I?
No.
So this is a little microphone that I have to speak into because I'm being recorded. So if I pass the mic to someone, please speak into this. All right, so we're going to define supplemental instruction first. Long definition. This is probably the slide with the most info on it, but we think it's so important. And we highlighted really what we want to focus on. So this is adapted from UMKC, which is the international hub for SI and where it was founded in 1973. Supplemental instruction is an academic support model, as you all know. We're housed in University College, and we will hear from the dean tomorrow. But what we do is we support academic programs through peer-assisted study groups. The SI program has regularly scheduled review sessions on course materials outside the classroom. Our sessions are informal. They're in this format of seminar where there's discussion amongst the group. It's a collaborative effort, as many of you know. We compare our notes. We discuss readings, predict test items, and develop tools for organization. That's a big part of what we do with our students. I see you all like frantically writing this down. So what we identify when we're looking at courses to target is the DWF rate. So those courses that students get, I was about to say the majority, the higher final grade of D, F, or withdrawing from the course completely. And we look at courses that are 30% or higher when we're identifying what to cover. So if you're sitting in this room and you're an SI facilitator for a course, your course is at 30% or higher in DWF rates, the course that you're facilitating for. Did everybody know that? Did anybody not know that? It's okay. Yeah. So it's really important that our students know that. Like, I'm in here for a reason. I'm not just in here because I get paid to help and I want to help students study. I'm in here because this is a tough course. Okay? SI is free, so important. It's a free service. It is open to all the students. Now, this is something we're going to harp on and harp on and harp on because it's at the core of SI. All students in the course. So in other words, when you're talking to your students, you're going to say, if you're sitting here in this course, then SI is for you. Is SI for you just because you're struggling? Not just for you, but yes, it is for you. Is it for you if you're an A student and you know chemistry like the back of your hand? Yes, SI is for you. And we'll get into why it's for everyone. We target the at-risk courses, not high-risk students. We target all students. It's very inclusive. Everybody, no matter what their academic preparedness, benefits from SI. Any questions about that? Did you all get it in your notes? Not yet. And very important, Sarah just reminded me, I missed a little key point on here, it's voluntary. We don't force anyone to come, we invite everyone to come, but we constantly encourage them to come. Also by voluntary, that means that it's anonymous, so the faculty member doesn't keep up with the roster of who's showing up to your SI sessions. That's held anonymous. We encourage students to take responsibility for their own learning. And we'll get into why we encourage that and the theory behind that. All right. We do have a foundation for why SI. Why was it founded? In 1973 at UMKC, an awesome professor said there's got to be a better way. And now SI, just so you know, SI is being used in medical schools in the lecture courses from the start. So, you know, like SI is, yeah, Frank's smiling about that. You'll know when you get into it, like it works. It's awesome. So the theories behind SI, and I definitely want to follow along with there because I didn't pull everything out into the outline. Where is it?
Right here.
Oh, okay. So first of all, we'll talk about the behavioral learning theory. Is anybody familiar with any of these theories, first of all? Or English? Psychology. Okay, KG. Okay. So you know some. You know some. Okay. So a lot of these are related to psychology, right? Especially, well, that's not just psychology, but this is also sociology, right? And then critical theory is also part of psychology as well. Okay, so we're going to talk about behavioral learning theory. And this really relates to positive reinforcement. Who's heard of positive reinforcement? Most of us, whether we've taken a psychology class or not. Did you grow up with parents perhaps that said good job and then it morphed your behavior? You wanted to do that over again, right? You wanted to keep repeating that behavior. Or maybe in class when someone says good job, you were like, yes, I'm going to keep doing this then because I'm getting positive reinforcement. So in our SI sessions, when students are learning new strategies, and then as a result, they go and take a test, and as a result, they score well based on their new strategies that they're learning in SI. That's the way they studied. It was different, right? Maybe than what they've always done. So then they're going to repeat that behavior because it worked. They scored better. Or they learn new material that they never knew in a different way. So that positive reinforcement, it's like a natural consequence for coming to SI. Also, what else? Oh, we want to touch on the second point on your outline. As it relates to the SI facilitator, you all are models. You're model students for the students that you're leading in those classrooms. So modeling good behavior by the SI leader is so important. They're learning what behavior gets them to the place where you are. How can I be successful? I'm going to watch you all. Okay, does that make sense? Anybody need clarity on that theory? Those are really the only two things we're going to touch on with behavioral. Okay. Cognitive development theory. Research shows that learners think differently about a concept when they utilize what? Does anybody know this by chance? When we delve deeper into something, what are we doing?
I could be wrong. Isn't this when you fully understand a concept is when you remember it?
Yes. And what do we do to fully understand the concept? Something thinking.
Critical thinking.
Yes. Is that what you were going to say too, Sarah? Okay. Yes, critical thinking. What does critical thinking do for the brain? Does anybody know? Exercises it. What did you say?
Breaks down information.
Breaks down the complex task, right? What did you say?
I don't know, builds neural pathways.
Neural
That's what I
pathways.
was going to go for.
Exactly. Somebody else say something? Gross. Does everybody agree with all those things? Anything else to add? Right. Okay. Also, when people here in the collaborative model that we follow in SI, when they are in that group and they're really involved in that group effort of learning, they're hearing different what? Perspectives. You all already know this stuff. Perspectives, yes, absolutely. And they're hearing different answers, not just perspectives, but different answers. Maybe, getting to the facts from different ways. So they're really building their cognitive development and creating those different neuro pathways, if we're getting scientific. Absolutely. All right, so moving on to social interdependence. This really revolves around, this is just SI at its core, because we follow that collaborative group model, the social aspect, and then the interdependence. So this is all about working together cooperatively and interdependently. That's number 2 bullet, by the way. Knowledge is built through cooperative and interdependent learning. Also, remember the voluntary piece that we just talked about in the definition? So when students take ownership for their learning, that's through the voluntary model that we're talking about, then they do better because they are then responsible. They're not being told they have to do something. They're showing up, they're contributing, and they're in charge of that. Who likes choices? Okay.
Who likes to make your own choice?
Yeah.
Let's do that.
Thank you. Thank you for rephrasing
Because I don't
that.
necessarily like choices. They stress me out. But I also don't want anybody telling me
I
what
love
to do.
choices. Okay. Who likes to make their own choices? Okay, there you go. Most of us are from the millennial generation, or maybe some of you are even from the Z generation. And so we really like to make our own choices. We like to be given choices and then make our own choices. And those are the students you're also going to be working with. So yeah, that's part of SI. And so the social component is so important. Also, knowledge is more thorough. You retain the knowledge and understand it more when you are doing what in the learning process? Definitely being proactive, yes. When you're taking what kind of role? An active role, yes. But I love that absolutely when you're taking a proactive role as well. Yeah. When you're actually engaged in learning, you can really understand it at a deeper level. And then also the dialogue with others validates factual information. Could not be more important in today's world, that we really know what we're talking about. We get to the core of it, and it's, everybody's going to have their opinion and share their ideas in sessions, but especially when we're talking about science courses, we can really get to the factual information. All right. Oh, this is another point. Learners are able to do in group effort today what they will autonomously do tomorrow. We're all about autonomy, giving people those choices. And then interpretive critical theory, we're going to move on to real quick. This really revolves around effective pedagogy and what the research has proven. All the different techniques that we use, the collaborative model in general, we're all about empowerment. So it empowers others to take control of their own learning. Good teaching just does that in general. When you're sitting in a class and you're just like falling asleep every single class, do you feel like I really want to keep learning this? Do you feel empowered to learn more if you're not inspired? Many of us don't. I know I don't. So really good teaching models empower us to take control of the learning process. And it also breaks down the dependency cycle. Someone telling you have to go do this, also just taking ownership in general breaks down the dependency cycle. And then a motivation for educational programs should be to overcome the learners. Does anyone in the room know this? Maybe our returners. What is this phrase we use?
Obviously, we don't use it often enough.
We don't. We always talk about it in training. It's a culture of...
Y'all are doing it right now.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Raising your eyebrows?
Often.
Can I chime in?
Yes, absolutely.
Culture of silence.
Culture of
Culture of silence.
silence. Yes. Anybody know what that means?
Is it that we, as a culture, are feeling comfortable with being silent?
Yes, absolutely.
And we like to fill in empty spaces
Do we know why we live in a culture of silence, especially when we're talking about in education, in the classroom setting?
You're either afraid of looking stupid or you're afraid of looking too smart.
Afraid of looking stupid or too smart? Melissa said. What else?
Is it because we usually just wait for the answer to be given when we hit silence?
Usually wait for the answer to just be given, someone else to do it for us.
Which is the dependency cycle.
What else?
A note on what Maria said. So there was this analogy. The reason if you're a doctor, when you have a crowd around, everyone else, even though there's an emergency, they're not going to go out of the way to help them because they think someone else is going to take care of it. So with all of us sitting here, someone else is going to answer the question, right?
What is it again?
It's huge to have responsibility, similar to the bystander effect. You feel when you're in a crowd that the responsibility of taking an action, you feel that it's better that somebody else do it because they're probably better equipped than you are.
Also that fear factor. We're often driven by fear, and that definitely creates that culture. Why is it so important to break the culture of silence? As SI leaders, let's pinpoint that. As SI leaders. Spread different ideas.
Make them feel comfortable with thinking before they speak.
They'll feel comfortable.
To build
Yes.
confidence.
Building confidence. All of these things. Someone back there?
Connect.
To connect.
I mean, it empowers you to not wait for somebody else. So, I mean, it gives you the power to help that person on the side of the road and build confidence in yourself or whatever.
Absolutely. Anything else?
Well, if you're in a culture of silence, you'll never take initiative, which means you'll never achieve much in your life.
Are leaders rarely silent? Are they silent often? No? They're rarely silent. Yeah. Okay. Let's move on. Okay, I guess I'm doing this too, right? Real quickly, we're going to run through this just to give you a brief overview of SI here at UNG and our timeline and how we've grown over the years. 1973, SI was founded at UMKC and brought to University of North Georgia, which was at the time Gainesville State College. Well, there were two separate universities at the time. But Gainesville State College is where SI began, in Gainesville and Oconee. And then in 2013, after consolidation, the program moved also into the Dahlonega campus. And then 3 years later, SI expanded to UNG and Cumming. So as you can see, we're fairly new. Fall 2016 is when we started our SI focus on leadership and our mentorship program. We had a mentor program, but we started a tiered mentorship program, which you'll get to learn all about the opportunities. And then today, we have increased our courses since last fall by 114% and 49% increase in SI leaders overall. It's big, right? It's big.
That's you.
Trust me. Yes, that's all of you. You're that 49%. All right, I'm gonna let Sarah touch on this.
I can touch on this, sure. All right, so I don't know about you guys. I get this question a lot. I actually got this question a lot when I was picking up these things for you guys the other day. Like, what is SI? Is it kind of like tutoring? Okay, well, let me ask you guys, is it kind of like tutoring?
It's okay.
You can
I
answer
think it is.
honestly. Sort of?
It's in the same category.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I would agree with that, yes. I'm going to trip over my words and I'm going to apologize in advance for that. SI and tutoring, they're both academic support programs. And as you can see, there are some places where SI and tutoring overlaps. But it is so important for you guys to understand how SI is different. So, how we're going to really go over this is what is SI and what isn't SI. Okay? So on your incomplete outline, you have little spaces where you can just kind of jot all of this down on your own. But, so general content and learning assistance. Yes, we definitely do that. We focus on the course content material, just like tutoring does, okay? A little bit different, support for a specific problem. For those of you who have gone through SI, whether you're returners, whether you've gone to sessions, have you ever, on a normal basis, do you walk in to your SI session and say, hey Frank, I have this problem. Here, help me.
Sometimes.
And if you do, what is his response?
he's like, I don't know.
We'll get to that in a second.
Yep.
Yeah, no, as SI leaders, we plan out sessions, right? It is not somebody walks into the class in a group of people and they're like, I have this question, I have this issue, help me now. No, we work in a collaborative environment and it's the facilitator's job to plan what students are doing or what they will be doing in the session, okay? Support for a specific course or instructor. This is totally supplemental instruction. Tutoring, I know we have some tutors in this room. You just go and you sit in a space or you meet with a specific person and you are not in that class with them. You may never have even taken the professor. You may have no experience with the professor. Sometimes you have no experience with the content material. That was me in statistics when I used to tutor that. Don't know why they let me. Yeah, I used to tutor statistics, guys. I got paid for it. Never once set foot in a statistics class. I don't know what they were doing. But, you know, I told them, they said they still wanted me to help. So I'm okay. So with SI, as you all know, you are paired with a specific instructor. You are the expert in that instructor. As expert as you can be. Okay. Addresses individual content needs. This goes back to support for a specific problem. That's fully tutoring, again. That's not saying that we can't help students if they have a specific problem, but that is not our primary role and responsibility.
And a big part of students coming in with a specific issue is, as you will learn, SI facilitators often redirect to other students in the group. And that's where the teaching element and the collaborative effort and the dependency cycle starts to break off.
Yes. Okay, refine study and learning skills. Totally SI, yes.
And tutoring. Just put that out there.
And tutoring.
Thank you.
Both of them. Yeah, they do. They do. We do focus on learning skills. That's what we want. That's what our collaborative learning techniques are geared toward. We'll go over all of those later. Shay makes a very good point. Tutoring also does this, but this is one of our big focuses, is teaching them how to learn. It's integrating what to learn with how to learn it. That's one of our little mottos for SI. Okay, student facilitated group sessions. Again, this is completely SI. This is what we do. Now sometimes you might get a session where there's only one student, or you might have an office hour and only one student comes. And obviously that's not a group. But for the most part, we do group sessions. It's not meant to be a one-on-one. Okay, individual sessions with a degreed professional, that's tutoring. You guys are not degreed professionals, obviously. We do not expect you guys to be the expert in the material, so sleep well, knowing that that pressure is taken off. So You guys are just there to help facilitate the learning process. Flexible scheduling opportunities, that is completely tutoring. You guys will have sessions twice a week. They will stay the same. You'll have your office hour once a week. It will stay the same every week. Except for like extenuating circumstances, if you have a reschedule. Again, we'll go over that a little bit later, but for the most part, SI is consistent, okay? And combines what to learn with how to learn. Oh, there it was, okay. Again, that was back up there. So that's what we do. We're combining what to learn with how to learn. And free. That's everything. If you go through the university, yes, SI is free. The students already paid for, the students paid for your salaries with their student activity fees. So, yeah, you can even tell them that, guys, you already paid for me, so come on. Like, why not, right? Okay.
Any questions?
Yeah. Oh, KG, yes.
If you guys don't keep track of who comes and who doesn't, because it's like supposed to be anonymous, how come you take 900 numbers and names and everything at the beginning?
That's a really good question. We do keep track. And we will go over this, but I can't say this enough. I do the attendance. Shannon will also do the attendance. We keep track of every single student that comes to your sessions. I cannot stress enough how important it is that every student who walks in those doors and utilizes your support, that you count them, okay? Because that is how we were able to grow by 114%. That is how all of you guys were able to be in this room, is because we've been able to show with our data that SI is working. And therefore, the university likes that and gives us more money. And then we get to pay you guys. So it is so important that you guys do that, that you keep accurate attendance consistently.
So it is for internal purposes, so the anonymous piece, that is internal data. We don't ever release any participant's name or anything like that. There are exceptions when a professor wants to offer extra credit for going. We can work that out with your faculty member specifically. Again, you don't have to worry about anything. I just need to work with a faculty member on that. So.
Yes, Shay.
And even if they're only there for like 10 minutes and then have to go to the next thing, we still sign them, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Absolutely.
We got to keep track of that. Okay, so now we're going to get into. Okay, we can do it. I'm going to make sure that I don't miss anything. All right. So now we're going to get into what actually makes SI SI. And it is our 3 elements. So whether you have 1 person in session or you have 30 people in session, it's happened. The biggest thing is that you keep these at the forefront of every single thing that you do in session. Okay, so first thing we're going to go over is redirection. Does anybody by chance know what redirection is? Returners, you're not allowed to talk right now. Corey and then Jenny.
It was like whenever I would ask Frank a question, and he would be like, what does everybody else think? And we'd all sort of like go through it together. Instead
Okay.
of him just answering.
Good job, Frank.
Yeah, it's stopping you from taking that professor role and making everyone participate.
Exactly. So, Corey did a great job of explaining that. Redirection is when students interact with each other rather than directing all of their comments and questions to the facilitator. Okay? So, the natural inclination for students is going to be, I need to ask my facilitator every single question because obviously they're in this role for a reason. So obviously they know all of the answers. That's not true. I mean, yeah, y'all know the answers, but that's not why you as a facilitator are there. You are there to help them figure out how to learn on their own, figure out how to find the answers on their own. That's the empowerment piece. So what you do is if somebody asks you a question, hey Jeff, what's thermodynamics?
Anybody else?
Yes. Say yes.
That's a great question. Anybody got an answer?
question, instead of that natural tendency, because we know the answers, right? I know this group of people, you guys are like great students. You obviously, you know the answers. And a lot of you said, I want to help people, right? So that natural inclination is going to be to just answer the question because you already know the answer. And oftentimes it's easier just to do that. What we want to do is stop that and say, just what Jess said, I don't know. Anybody else? Does anybody else know? And redirect it back to the group. If nobody in the group, if everybody's like, okay, well let's pull out our books, let's pull out our notes. So you can redirect to different resources. So either redirecting to other students in the class, that should always be number one. Redirecting to your notes or textbooks can be number two. And then you always, often, will have a computer. So if you can't find it there, all right, Google's your best friend. Y'all know that as good students, right? If you don't know the answer to something, I hope, you guys are like, let me go Google this. You can find Google, like you can find it on Google. So that's what we're wanting to show them, that they don't need to have us sitting there with them at all times to be able to find answers for themselves. All right, redirection is based on the idea that we learn better, more completely, if we explain something to someone else. So what benefit is it to the students if, as a facilitator, I answer every single one of your questions? How is it benefiting you as a student or the other students in session? It's not. Like, as a generation, we like that instant gratification. I guarantee you right now, I'm telling you, you will have students that get very frustrated with you because of redirection. This will be the one that students will hate you for. Some of them might even stop coming. And they'll be like, they never give me any of the answers. If that ever happens, I'll petition Emily to give you guys a raise. Okay? Like, seriously, that's what should be happening. Like, they should be getting frustrated because you're not giving them the answers. You're showing them how to find it themselves, okay? I'll give you a little tip. It is much easier to go through this, to have a smooth semester, if you start redirection off from the very beginning, okay? It is very hard to do this. Again, our natural inclination. I'm stressing redirection so much because it's so important. But our natural inclination is to answer the question. You've got to suppress that. And it is so much easier. Our returners, I know I saw Shay nodding her head emphatically. It's so much easier to start that from the very beginning. Okay? Yes?
Can you explain again that we can't answer the question?
Yes. So, always, if somebody asks you a question, or they say, well, why can't you tell me the answer? Please tell them why. Don't just say, because. Explain. Because you will benefit more if you learn how to find that answer yourself. If you can tell somebody how it benefits them, they will be much more willing to go along with it. They might not see it at the beginning, like at first, but they will start to see how that benefits them. Yes?
If really no one answers anything for like a straight minute, are you supposed to just let them figure it out anyway, or do you just kind of give hints or give the answer?
Yeah. I'm gonna let the mentors, y'all answer that question since you guys, y'all are.
Could you repeat the question, please?
If like the students don't say anything for a straight minute and you're just here being like, okay, I gave you hints and no one's finding the answer, do you just tell them to Google it, or do you actually just give them the answer after a while?
Okay. You need to use good judgment, and that can just take experience. If it's an extremely difficult concept and you're really rushed for time, once in a blue moon, you might give an answer and then show them how you get that answer. But before you ever get there, what you want to do is, if they're just not talking, you start directing them, hey, start using Google.
Pull out your notes. Why don't you have your notes out in front of
Yeah.
you? We see that in sessions all the time where students are literally just sitting there and they have nothing in front of them. And you're like, where's your Like, where do you think you are, guys? And that's important. So we want, like, that's the point where you say, where's your notes? Like, let's pull the notes out. You get your class notes out at the same time, and you look through your notes and try to find the answer. Again, if you can join with them, that always makes them feel a little bit better. Instead of just like, and it's like less awkward, I would assume. If you're just sitting there, pull out your notes, let's find it. And you just sit there, and you just sit there, and sit there. Like what? That's not efficient. That's not effective. But if you say, all right, let's pull out our notes, and you pull out your notes too, and you flip through them, then it's also a little bit easier for you to direct them where they need to go. So maybe you say, okay, well, remember that this was the battle right before Brandywine. Sorry, the history person's coming out in me. So then they can go, okay, well, let's find Brandywine, and then they can go and have a little bit more of context. And again, that's not you giving them the answer, it's you redirecting them. Okay? Does that answer your question?
Yes.
Do you have any more questions about redirecting? Then we'll go to the other two. So the other two, yes, they're 100% just as important. They're just a little bit easier, maybe. I don't know. I could be wrong.
I think wait time's the hardest.
You think wait time's the hardest? All right, well, survey says.
I would agree with that, yeah.
It's the hardest to get down.
Yeah.
Because the natural inclination is to, somebody asks you a question, you answer it.
But that's redirection.
Right, what I'm saying. But before you say a word, before anything comes out of your mouth,
You have to sit there.
in a normal conversation, in a normal conversation, if somebody asks you a question, are you just gonna sit there and stare at them for a while?
If you're awkward, you will.
And you also
Like me.
get like, you'll see especially like in your first couple of sessions, you spend all this time planning, and you have like, cause you only have 50 to 60 minutes to do it, so you guys are like, I gotta get all this stuff in. That's fine, you don't have to get everything in, it's okay just to wait. Like that was probably the hardest thing for me to get down, was to understand I have time to wait, I don't have to get through everything.
Yeah.
Like I don't have to rush things along.
All right, so the actual definitions of wait time. First off, or what did I say? There are two different kinds of wait time. Wait time one is when a student asks you a question. It is that wait time that you just kind of sit there for about like, what do we say? Like we say count to 5 Mississippi. So you ask me a question, and I just, okay, all right. Well, let's have the mentors. Like, let's see what the mentors have to say. That gives other people in the room the opportunity to answer that question, as opposed to you taking that over. Okay. So you ask me a question, and I just kind of wait. Y'all come in with an answer. I'm waiting. Off the top of your head. What is that? Okay, it's early, I guess. Anyway.
Answer to what?
What answer?
Give the answer. Be real random.
42.
There you go.
Wow.
Yeah.
Big man.
Oh, yeah, 42. What do we agree with that? That's wait time.
What is this random number? I don't know.
There you go. Wait time one is the time when somebody asks you a question, you don't jump on it immediately. Even if you're going to redirect it, you don't just jump on it. You kind of chill out for a second. One of our facilitators, I don't remember which one, but they used to, was it Dylan?
What?
Dylan used to take a sip every time somebody would ask them a question. So you ask me a question. All right, well, like, what does everyone else think about that? Or you answer a question? Yeah. So sometimes that helps, like having a beverage there, and you're just like. Anyway, I just needed hydration. It's fine. Okay, wait time 2 is also extremely important. Wait time 2 is when you ask a question, somebody answers the question, you just wait for 3 to 5 seconds, or just 5. Just keep it in mind. 5 seconds. Huh? Yeah. I mean, I'm always humming. It's just like what I do. It's fine. All right. So, let's see. Yeah, it occurs in the time that elapses between a student answering a question and you immediately validating it. Again, this is really difficult for us as people who want to help. All right? A lot of you said that you're in this because you want to help people. And often, when we want to help people, we want to encourage them, we want to tell them that they're right, right? I mean, I know I do. Why is this not turning with me?
No idea.
Whatever.
Oh,
Anyway,
yes, one.
because it's not on.
Oh, nice. We've been just talking into it.
Don't tell Emily.
Wait, did someone turn it off?
I don't know. I blame Emily.
That's fine.
It's recording still. Sorry, guys. All right, now it's moving. Okay, cool. Sorry about that. Okay, so wait time 2 is in the time between a student and First off, we never ever want to tell somebody outright, no, that's wrong. That was just the wrong answer.
I did wait.
Like, were you even in class? No. Okay, we never want to do that. If somebody does get the answer wrong, say, okay, can you explain how you got there? That's a way to kind of help them along. Does anybody else have maybe a different answer? Does anybody else have anything to add? Just little things like that, okay? Instead of just saying straight out, no, wrong. Again, even if they're right, we want to open it up for discussion. Are there different answers? Okay? What's your name?
I forgot.
Did you forget your name?
It's right there.
Frank.
No, I'm not.
Oh.
What's your name?
Dylan.
Wait 3 seconds.
You're wrong.
Does anybody have another answer?
Actually, it is. His name is
Google
Charles.
says it's Charles.
It's Charles. There's 2 answers to that question. Like, I might think that his name is Dylan. I might be completely sure, and we might know that his name is Dylan. But there's other answers, okay? That even the SI leader might not know, right? We don't know everything. So, the wait time 2 allows other people to jump in, and it lets them be more confident. Another one of our facilitators, I forgot to mention this, used to do wait time 2. This was really hard for her, and so she came up with a little way to remember. After every single time somebody answered a question, she would ask, how confident are you in that? That builds confidence. Like, they have to actually reflect and think, how confident am I in that? Like, I'm really confident, like, I'm just spitballing an answer, and then it helps them realize where they are in that knowledge. So, write that one down, because it's brilliant. Like, seriously, we share it with everybody because it's brilliant. All right, so I'm going to move on. Where did Emily go? Anyway, checks for understanding. So this is also very important. This is where the critical thinking comes in. This is where they dive kind of deeper into the material. Instead of staying on that surface, we want them to go deeper into the material. We want them to connect it to bigger pictures, right? If they just are memorizing facts, well, let me ask you guys. If you're memorizing facts, does that information stay with you?
No.
No, it doesn't. If you actually are able to really, if you're able to connect it to something larger and you're really able to fully understand it, then does that stay with you? No? Why not?
That's why I'm not doing 1108.
There you go. Yeah, for the most able to connect something to a larger picture, you're going to remember it much more than just memorizing something, okay? So if you can get an entire idea of like the nervous system and connect all these little parts to things, you don't have to worry about just like memorizing different pieces here and there. You'll just know it. Like, I know the nervous system now. So that's what Checks for Understanding does. It's essential for us also as the facilitator to know whether or not the students really understand things as well. So like, we can ask them, did you get that? Does everybody understand this? How do we know that? They can all say yes, but how do we know that they've understood it? Okay, so that's what Checks for Understandings do. They should always be open-ended questions. You should never ever ask, do you understand this? Did y'all get that? Don't ask yes or no questions. That's not Checks for Understanding. What's up, KJ?
Oh, you were like, does everyone understand this? And I was like, that's not an open-ended
No.
question.
Yeah, you should never say that kind of stuff. You should ask them to explain it back to you. Again, if you teach the material back, you're going to remember it. Once you can teach somebody else something, right, then that's when you really know it. Okay. It's important to use Checks for Understandings that empower the students, improves that they understand the material. And our motto really goes with Checks for Understanding. Well, our motto goes with all of these. But does anybody know our motto? Simply yours. Is this so bold? No.
What is a
It's like, it's one of them, yeah. It is one of them, but like the big one. Anybody know it? We do better when we work together. Woo! Is it?
Yeah, I remember my sister had this teddy bear, and we'd always accidentally step on it. And
That's
it
like
would say,
mind.
we do better when we work together. It's the most annoying thing ever. But
That's mind blowing because one of our past facilitators actually came up with that. So we're not facilitators, mentors. So I'm gonna tell him. Well, either way, that's still our slogan. We do better when we work together, and that's the whole idea of SI. Okay, so now collaborative learning techniques. These are, you guys should all have them in your notebook or in your binder. If you want to open up to maybe the second tab. You have a list of our collaborative learning techniques. And this is actually these are your CLT cards. It's a library of cards that either UMKC has made, other institutions have made. Some of them are ones that we have made. Like you guys, not me. I didn't make any of them. You guys, y'all are the brilliant people. We have some of Rachel's and Shay's in there. I know we do. Don't give me that look. Okay. So, what is a CLT? It's based on collaborative learning. It's an educational approach to learning that involves groups of students working together to solve a problem, complete a task, or create a product. Okay? So, these are all the different methods that you can use to have your students work together. All right? You are not restricted to these cards. Obviously, as you can see, we do have some that our facilitators have made, and that was because they thought out of the box. They didn't stick to the cards. They came up with their own ways to get students working together. So please feel free to do that as well. You do not have to stick to these. The thing with CLTs, they do cater to all different learning styles. So we've got like our visual, our auditory, and our kinesthetic learners. Those are our 3 different learning styles. They cater to all of them, and they accommodate a wide range of students. So in your session, you should be looking to cover all of those learning styles to be able to work with a bunch of different students. I know and we'll go over in depth what learning styles are, but I know I'm visual and kinesthetic. Like, If I have to see something, I have to do something. If you talk to me, like, I will forget it, I promise. So, that's a good side note. If you're ever like in a conversation and you ask me to do something, remember to send the follow-up email. Disclaimer, guys. I'm helping you out, all right? And they involve individual, partner, and group activities. Okay? So there are some times when you will have your students working individually, and that's okay. Ideally, in each session, you will have an individual activity, a partner activity, and a group activity. Just like a rule of thumb. Switch it up on them. Okay. And then again, we do better when we work together. Yay for Care Bears. All right, so we're going to do an informal quiz. So what I want you guys to do is to write your answers on your notes. And then if you don't know the answer, write down the question. Okay? So this is kind of wrapping everything up. All right, so if a student asks you a content question, what would be the most effective response? What of the three elements? What should you do if a student asks you a question?
Redirect it.
Write it down. Write it down. We'll go over this in a second. Write it down. All right, list 3 ways in which SI is different than tutoring. All right, which version of wait time is best when trying to build student confidence? I don't know if I went over the next one. Which CLT is useful? Which CLTs are most useful for chemistry classes? You guys might know about that. And what are some ways to check for students' understanding? Okay, so let's go over this real quick. Very quickly. If a student asks you a content question, what would be the most effective response? Redirect. Does anybody have any other answer for that? Do we have a consensus? Okay. What are 3 ways that SI is different than tutoring?
Paid planning hours.
Paid planning hours.
It's not flexible schedule.
Non-flexible schedule.
Free.
Both of them are free, but yes, it is free. Group sessions. Specific course and instructor. Do we have any more?
I could go on, but I'm not going to.
Okay. All right, yeah, all of those are really good. We also focus on what to learn, integrating how to learn and what to learn. And we have a large focus on the study skills, which is what those CLT cards are. Which version of wait time is best when trying to build student confidence? Okay, we've got a wait time 2. How many agree with wait time 2? Okay. All right. It is wait time 2. Wait time 1. Yeah, wait time 2 builds the student's confidence because you're actually giving them time to process their information. Again, if you ask them, how confident are you? Then that actually starts building their confidence. I don't know that I went over this, and that's my bad. Which CLTs are useful for chemistry sessions?
We're gonna do that.
Oh.
Because he covered it.
Okay. Does anybody have an answer?
This is a freebie. Why don't you just take a guess? What do you think would be useful in chemistry sessions?
All of them. Who said that? Yes, all of them. So yes, some CLT cards you can see how they will be used. They could be used for more of like one specific type of subject. But technically, if you're creative, you can use any CLT for any subject. Okay? You can use a timeline for chemistry. Yes.
Can I add something to that? If you are trying, you don't try too hard to fit one where it's just not trying to fit, because sometimes some subjects just don't work with some sentence diagramming don't really work with chemistry, those kinds of things. But it is very possible to be, expanding into all these different things.
Yeah.
And don't be afraid to try different things.
Yeah.
Like if you fail, you fail. It's fine. That's what SI is about. Just building that confidence to try new things.
Yep. Yeah, so we're building y'all's confidence just as much as you guys are building your students. We are not afraid of failure in this organization, okay? And that is one thing. We will never, ever, ever dock you for trying something and it not working. Ever. Okay? But we do always, always encourage you to try something different, to step out of your comfort zone, step out of the box. So, yeah. What are some ways to check for students' understanding? Okay.
Open-ended questions.
Open-ended questions. All right. Those are good. You can also get them to teach the material back to somebody, like teach it back to the group. Then we're good.
We're gonna take a 5-minute break right now. Sorry, we'll have a longer break in a little bit.